House of the Galactic Elevator. A Beginner's Guide to Invading Earth. Book 2. By Gerhard Gerke. Chapter 1. Be that as it may, Jeff Abel said. You can't let him murder you like that. It's against the law. Jeff stood between the earthy slug and the porcine humanoid, keeping them at arm's distance from each other. The slug reeked of dirt, rotten eggs, and manure. The pigman salivated, a stream of drool dripping from one of its two protruding tusks. "But officer," the slug said, "my body is ready for composting. I've built up too much moisture to continue much longer, and I need to be sewn into the ground to begin anew." "That's right, officer," the pig said through the slurp of spit. "I was just going to help this here fellow with that. It's all natural and, as you just heard, consensual." "Just a sec," Jeff said. He pushed some hair from his face. He still hadn't gotten around to finding a place that was willing to cut human hair. Maybe he could get the only other human in the city to do it, but he hadn't seen Jordan in a month. He pulled out his tablet computer from a null space pouch on his belt. If he had the city and species apps installed wet into his brain, the process of fact-checking the slug would have been instantaneous. But Jeff didn't want anything, no matter how benign, implanted under his skin or in his head. The tablet showed him the species data for the slug. Upon maturation, the creatures went through an off-gassing period where they returned home to get tilled under the soil and sprout a new generation of dirt slugs, passing on memories and a shadow of the creature's previous identity to their children. These, in turn, grew and prospered and repeated the process a decade later. "As you can see, I want this to happen," the slug said. Jeff looked around at the park they were standing in. Stone and crystal pillars of varying heights filled the open spaces, with deep green shrubs replete with white flowers growing in between. Gravel pathways wound between the pillars, as did a floating stream of effervescent water that sparkled under the silver sky. A few Galactic Commons citizens strolled about the park, with none taking any interest in the security issue at hand. The park itself was one of hundreds of green belts set aside within the urban landscape for recreation, meditation, and, in this case, an attempted composting homicide. The city itself rose on all sides of the long park, a bewildering array of impossibly tall buildings of myriad styles shining in the silver sky. Some looked like needles, some like polished slate-gray obelisks. At least one looked like a mutant diamond-studded beanstalk straight out of a fairy tale. The city was the architectural output of 1,000 worlds and member races of the Galactic Commons, a conjoined salad bowl culture where nothing fit together, yet it all somehow worked. "Look," Jeff said, "I see that this is part of your natural process. I also see that you can put it off for a while." "But it's not comfortable. I feel bloated." The slug offered a hand to the pigman. The pigman's snout twitched and it snorted and sniffed. Soon it was dabbing its nose into the slug's arm. "Knock it off," Jeff said. "You'll have to wait to get back to your homeworld, or at least back to your sovereign building to carry on. I can't authorize this, not here." "But we don't have a sovereign building," the slug said. "And he can't go back to his homeworld," the pigman said. "None of us can." The pigman was right. The elevators of the Galactic Commons transportation system hadn't worked for the 3 months since the bunny invasion had been thwarted. The slug, the pigman, and Jeff were stuck in the city until it all got fixed. Other issues, like finding Jordan or trying to rescue the thousands of stranded aliens who had mistakenly traveled to Earth just before the elevators broke, would also have to wait. "So what do you say, officer?" the pigman asked. "Can I help a fellow citizen out?" Jeff activated the security app to show him where any other officer might be. While he browsed the interface, the pigman bit into the slug's arm. Its snout ripped most of the muddy limb apart, emerging brown and disgusting, with worms dangling from between its teeth and tusks. It slurped these down like spaghetti noodles. The slug started to scream, but whether with pain or delight, Jeff couldn't be sure. It gasped and trembled, but didn't pull away from the pigman. "Hey!" Jeff yelled. He reached into his null space pouch. A water bottle, lunchbox, first aid kit, some random tools. Where was his stun blaster? Keeping the pouch organized was worse than keeping a toolbox well ordered or a work truck clean, as the pouch's contents floated where they were placed, obscuring deeper recesses and items rarely used, such as his never-fired stunner issued the day he signed on to the security detail for the city. The pigman's pupils went small, and it chomped into the slug's shoulder, savaging it. Jeff punched the creature. The pigman went down, but it had the slug's arm still in its grip, the limb having been torn completely free. "Thank you, oh, thank you," the one-armed slug said. Jeff waggled his hand as pain shot down from fingers to wrist. Hitting the pigman's knobby head felt like punching a rock. "Stay down," Jeff said. The pigman laughed. "What are you going to do, banish me?" It got up. "Here's my suggestion, human. Get lost and let 2 consenting common citizens enjoy lunch." "I said stay down." The pigman lowered its head and narrowed its eyes. The slathered mud clung to its bristles like a mask, and its 2 tusks looked like curved daggers. It scraped a foot on the ground. Jeff took a step back. "Listen, just hold on. Wait." The pigman charged. A yellow bolt cracked the air, striking the pigman on the back of the head like a kiss of lightning. The pigman stumbled and fell to the ground, twitching. A bumpy-faced humanoid wearing a trench coat and holding a small stun pistol walked over to them, his expression a sea of calm. "You shot him," the slug said, sounding disappointed. "Correct," Captain Fleming of Common Security said. He holstered his weapon. "He's only stunned for a while. Time enough to sort this out. How old are you?" "I'm 10 years old," the slug said. "Is this your first decomposition?" "It was going so well until the human interrupted us." Fleming gave Jeff a look. "The human was doing his job, saving your next of kin. Pull up a species bio. This creature wasn't going to till you. He was going to consume anything that you might leave in the ground that would comprise your future generation. Also, check your city app. This soil is quite alkali, and your spawn might not have survived even had they been planted with more loving hands." The slug's expression fell. Then a look of concentration crossed his face as he read through the particulars of the pigman species on his wet app. His eyes glowed with a blue data feed. "Oh my," the slug said. "You're right." "Unfortunately, your elders left you here during the evacuation," Fleming said. "Some of them were decades old and could have told you these things, and also that you can tough it out for quite a few maturation cycles before composting." "Oh, thank you, Captain." The slug offered Captain Fleming a dirty hand, like a brown snowman wanting to shake. Fleming took the hand and gave it a squeeze. "Now go back to your dorm," Fleming said, wiping his hand on his coat. "And don't take anyone else up on any offers of a date." The slug nodded and began to creep away, his single long foot a ripple of motion, leaving a trail of shiny brown in his wake. "Thanks," Jeff said. "You need to get your app installed," Fleming said. "And where's your stunner?" "In my pocket. It's under some stuff. I couldn't find it." "Indeed. Get a second pouch for work." "What about him?" Jeff crouched over the stunned pigman. It still clung onto the slug's dirty arm like a trophy. "Call the security bots and have him taken to detention with the others." With that, Fleming turned and left Jeff standing alone in the park. Using the tablet, Jeff called 2 bots for the detainee. He next tapped one icon labeled Security Incident Report. The app offered a wet install. The notion sent a shiver down his spine, and he declined the offer. Operating the computers in the course of duty was one thing. He had gotten used to working on the machines again, even going as far as familiarizing himself with some of the programming for the affected systems, broken during the bunny invasion. But the notion of putting any program into his head where he couldn't pop it in a drawer or pouch at the end of the day still made him queasy. Jordan didn't have a problem with it. She had installed several wet apps just hours after humanity's acceptance into the Commons. In fact, most citizens had their apps in their heads or under their skin. But not all. And not Jeff. No way, not today, or any other day. Besides, the Security Protocols and Procedures Manual said it was optional for volunteers in the service. Jeff tried not to think about all of the automated, computer-controlled conveniences that filled every corner of the city. He always took the tram when possible to avoid interacting with the automated cars. He avoided buildings that didn't have stairs, even though his home office was inside the security building, which was halfway up a 96-floor tower. The high-speed grav lifts reminded him of the worst kind of amusement park ride that only served to send lunch to a rider's feet before catapulting it in the opposite direction. He kept most of the appliances in his new apartment unplugged. A few of the walkers in the park stared at him. Jeff smiled and waved. While his translator couldn't read lips, he could hear one of them whisper to her mate in a disapproving tone, "That's the human."